We started out as a political organization, as a spiritual, cultural kind of, and artistic organization. There are those four strains in the Sisters.
That was Sister Mary Media of the San Francisco Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. I'm Jeff, and this is Storied San Francisco. Every week on this podcast, you'll hear from drag queens, writers, bartenders, and other San Franciscans, telling stories and responding to the question, what is it about this place? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 17, Part 2. In Part 1, Mary Media set the stage for the birth of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence back in 1979. In this podcast, she picks up the story of how a group of young gay drag queens came together around the ideas of performance, politics, charity, and spirituality. She also talks about how she got her drag nun name. Here's Sister Mary Media. So as it existed at that time, kind of 79, 8 or so, was it already called? Did you already have the name, or when did that all come about? The name, formalizing it as a group.
Yeah, it was late 1979, early 1980. There was a meeting at somebody's house of all these people who were interested, who had gotten measured for habits, and who had expressed interest, and who were we were participating in things, in events, not in habit because we didn't have them yet, but there was an intention to form a group, an order of nuns. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like the perfect representation. It was the perfect antidote to clone culture at the time, because here was this group of drag personas, who all look the same. Right. So it was like, it was like the perfect antidote to clone culture at the time.
Who came up with the name? Do you remember?
I wasn't at that meeting.
Oh, damn it.
That first meeting. There are, again, different versions of the truth. I think William Stewart, whose house the meeting was at, seems to have been largely responsible for it, though Sister Missionary Position claims to that he had a lot to do with the name. So it was apparently like a 6-hour meeting of what are we going to do? And we have to have a name. And so I guess over that course of that period, the name evolved in that meeting. So suddenly we had a name, which kind of fit.
Yeah, absolutely. When would you say the sisters' charity work took over?
Good question.
I don't say took over, but took hold is what I meant.
Yes, because we didn't start out as you're suggesting. We didn't start out as a charitable organization. We started out as a political organization, as a spiritual, cultural kind of, and artistic organization. There are those four strains in the Sisters. There's the performative, the performance aspect. There's the social work that we do, the charitable works that we do. There's the political, and there's the spiritual. And what's so great about being a sister is that you're involved with people who are interested in all of those things to one degree or another. Like for some people, they couldn't care less about one aspect or the other. But together you can do so much more because people are bringing all these different influences together. So we started out not as a charitable organization at all, but what happened is that there was something called the Mariel boat lift that happened, where Castro opened the mental hospitals and the prisons in Cuba to get rid of basically people who had been arrested for homosexuality in Cuba, and for other minor crimes, I guess. So there was suddenly a boat lift. There was all these boats coming, boatloads of people coming from Cuba to the States, and a huge component of that was gay people. And so they were arriving here with absolutely nothing. Some people in the community thought, "Oh, here's an opportunity to get a cheap houseboy," or it was like the most obnoxious response to the needs of these people, of these refugees, essentially. So we decided to hold a bingo to raise money. We had never done a bingo before, so we scheduled the bingo. Herb Cain covered it that day in his column. That was the first time the sisters had been mentioned in his column. And so he mentioned that evening there was going to be a bingo. So many people showed up that we had to schedule a second sitting. It was great. And so that was how we started raising money for the community. So now, of course, we have regular grant cycles. We twice a year we actually give money. We solicit applications for grants, and we try to fund typically organizations that are not getting funding from more mainstream sources, groups that are either on the margins because they're not kind of respectable enough for traditional funders, or they don't have a track record, or it's maybe somebody just has an idea and just needs somebody to believe in them enough to give them some seed money. And so that's what we look for, and so that's our kind of niche in grant making.
I was curious about your name.
Oh, Mary Media.
Yeah.
Well, I used to when I came here, I had been involved in back up, in college. I was the editor of my newspaper, my campus newspaper. So I was always kind of interested in media. In fact, going back to high school, I did a column for the high school in the local paper. Anyway,
a journalist.
I was kind of a journalist, but journalism didn't really cut it for me.
Yeah.
And so I ran into somebody. I started talking to somebody on the street one day. It was in Haight-Ashbury. It was, I think, at Masonic and Haight. He was just sort of hanging out. I was just sort of hanging out, so we just started talking. And one thing leads to another, and it turns out he's interested in doing media. I'm interested in doing media. He has experience in audio production, film and audio production. So we set up a production company called Raven's Head Communications, which produced audio features on queer subjects that we sent around to the different queer radio programs around the country. So we were kind of freelance queer radio producers. That's how I got to meet Fred Brungard, a.k.a. Sister Missionary Position, because he was involved with Fruit Punch over at KPFA. Mm-hmm. And through him is how I got to know the other people who were who became involved with starting a group. Mm-hmm. And when I went to some of the fairy gatherings, not the first one, but to subsequent fairy gatherings, I took a portable record player, a portable tape recorder with me, and I was kind of wandering around like taping it. And I have tapes from those gatherings, which I wish I could play them now without them falling apart.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to listen to them, but that's a separate problem. So I started out calling myself Sister Hot Patootie, bless my soul. But at that gathering, some of the other sisters started calling me Mary Media. And so because I was the mistress of communications of the order at that time, the name stuck, and so that's how I became Sister Mary Media. And so it doesn't have, there's no like double entendre, there's no like dirty little aspect to the name. It's just, that's the kind of, I guess, reflects me. That's who I am, and that's
It's not Mary Magdalene or anything like that.
It's
Mary.
And it's Mary. It's not even happy media. It's like
no, but that's your origin story.
That's my name. Yeah,
the name.
And and as I said, like I had those interests in performance and queer politics and spirituality that coalesced in here's a group of people who I could be involved with, that it is political work that is meaningful to me. Cultural work.
So 40 years. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Okay, well, there was a long period where I kind of stepped back in the late 80s and only reconnected around the 30th anniversary, which was 2000, maybe a little earlier than the 30th anniversary. So there was a whole period in there where I was not involved personally.
Okay.
But the order did maintain. I mean, it was down to like, I think maybe 4 or 5 people at one time.
I think Roma talked about
that
a very little bit.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay. But 40 years. I mean, we did a lot. I mean, I'm very proud of the things that we did in the early days, like the Play Fair pamphlet that we did, which was an early safe sex, a brochure that we wrote, printed, and handed out at the 1982 what was called Gay Freedom Day Parade back then. There was clearly a health crisis around STDs going on in the city. This was pre-AIDS or pre-awareness of AIDS. Right. But we wanted people to know about what they were experiencing, like what they were the things that they were getting infected with. We wanted them to have an understanding of what of how to treat it and how to that it wasn't sort of a death sentence. I don't know. This is actually, I mean, as it turns out, looming in the background, it was a death sentence. But back then, we were talking about gonorrhea and things like that, STDs. And the literature that was available at that time was from public health sources, and it was all very judgmental. You shouldn't be doing this, and this is what you're getting yourself into. Right. And it was all described in clinical terms. We knew that people were not going to stop having sex, so we came up with the message of play fair. In other words, treat your brethren and your sisters with respect and with empathy and with kindness and with honesty, and just play fair, but play. And so we used the language that people used to talk about sex. We used, it wasn't clinical language, and it was a sex positive message. And so that is now considered a forerunner of kind of community response to a health crisis. It's sort of it started a whole new way of communicating medical information to the community. So I'm very proud of that. And then, of course, Bobby Campbell, who was AIDS poster boy, he was on the cover of Newsweek magazine. He was one of the first people to educate people about the nature of HIV and AIDS. It was called GRID at that time. And he was a sister, Sister Florence Nightmare RN. And so we had, I think, the very first fundraiser for an AIDS organization when we sponsored a fundraiser for the organization that he had started with some other people here in the city. So, yeah, I mean, there was so much, there was other stuff going on. I mean, there was just like being a sister can be a full-time job, so that led to me kind of stepping back and needing to. We were all taking care of, our friends and family of choice at that time. So I couldn't just stay being a sister, but I adore being a sister. And when the opportunity came to rejoin, I went for it.
Awesome. And they saved your seat.
Yes, exactly. And the thing, I just want to make the point that, I'm sure you're aware, and probably most people listening to this are aware, that we are not like making fun of nuns. We're not. I mean, some people at the beginning felt like, oh, you're mocking nuns. It's more misogyny from the gay male community. No, that's not what it's. I mean, we kind of honor nuns. If we mock anything, it's the way nuns are treated by the misogynistic hierarchy of the Catholic Church. But I mean, we really do see ourselves as nuns. We're not playing nuns. We take vows. We function as secular nuns. So Catholic nuns, they raise money for the poor. We raise money for the poor. They educate. We educate. They comfort the afflicted. We comfort the afflicted. They take a vow of chastity. We raise money for the poor.
That's awesome.
We're nuns.
Yeah.
And I love that. And so we started this little group in, of like, I don't know, 12. I think there's the 4 founders and 12 originals, or is the way it's been codified in our history. But now there are, orders. There are houses in, I think, 60 cities in the United States and 12 or 13 other countries.
Wow.
And so 40 years later, we'll be celebrating this coming next month by people coming in from all over the world to help us celebrate 40 years of activism that's rooted in spirituality. It's a political awareness, but it's rooted in a spirituality and in caring, an empathetic understanding of the way we can be in the world.
That was Sister Mary Media. Join us next week when you'll hear from Faye's Coffee owner and artist Michael McConnell. Music for the podcast is by Otis McDonald. Film photography is by Michelle Kilfeather. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram if you want to stay up to date on everything we do. Find the 60-plus past episodes on our website, storiedsf.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If that happens to be Apple Podcasts and you have a minute to spare, please rate and review the show for us. Send comments or suggestions to storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Sitting here thinking of you. Maybe I'm painting blue. What I'm